what would give you the meatiest slap if you slapped it together?
It would be chicken breast, I think, because there's like no bone in it. And you would just...
No, with sound design, it's never the actual thing. It's something that sounds like the thing. Like, if you want to make an arrow sink into something, go doing, you actually use, like, a spring or something.
Yeah, so it's not a bird.
It wouldn't be actual meat.
But the sound of two people hitting each other would be... I don't know, actually. I don't know enough about Foley shenanigans.
No, it'd probably be like...
No, it's two silicone implants that you just smash together.
Glove smacking the table.
Thank you. Yeah,
you would punch a woman with silicone breasts.
Which makes sense because, I was going to say Walt had his hands filled with silicone, but maybe he's just a violent man.
Yeah, to grow stronger. To have
fights women with fake breasts on the street. How dare you fake these breasts in front of me?
I went to the doctor and I was like, I want to have the strongest hands known to man. And he was like, well, he was German. Well, we cannot make your hands physically stronger, but we can give them the appearance of being very strong. And I accepted that.
You have double D hands.
Right, and the listeners can't see Walter, but because his hands look horrifying, he has giant white gloves over them, so he does have a Mickey Mouse thing going on.
I do. In fact, it's like a rarity that I get to move any of my like fingers or extremities at all. So swollen are the digits on both of my hands that it's actually a cumbersome process carrying on my life.
Now a plastic surgery podcast.
And
what podcast is it, boys? Can we remind the listeners?
Well, guys, welcome to 30-Minute Worlds. This is a show where we create a fictional setting from scratch in 30 minutes or less or more. I'm Zach Chessman.
I'm Dan Kennedy.
I'm Walter.
And I'm Belvin Ilosov.
And this week, I'm the lore lad.
That's true. We determined it via secret ballot.
And I definitely prepared something.
Yeah, Walt doesn't have a last name for legal reasons, actually.
I gave it up to get my hands.
You traded your last
give up
name
your family
back to the Germans.
Yeah, it was a monkey's paw.
Yeah, they needed your name for... No, they needed your name for Lebensraum, and so they took it. Silicon.
They're like, what would you give up for hands that were large? And I was like, everything.
And then the gift of the Magi thing is that he was going to be put into the Book of World Records for having the largest hands. And he said, all we need is your first name and last name.
Right. Well, no, because that's the monkey's paw situation. A Book of the Magi situation would be if I wanted to get comically large silicone hand injections for my girlfriend, because it was what she always wanted, and then I had to fucking raise money to do that by getting hand injections myself, and then she already got hand injections to raise money for my hand injections, would be the Book of the Magi situation.
I just love the mental image of you trying to type with giant hands and just destroying your keyboard over and over again.
Well, that's why his keyboard's 5 times as big.
No, he has a stack of keyboards. He can only use one letter per keyboard. He has to keep replacing them over and over again.
He actually has a drum kit where each drum is replaced with one key.
A QWERTY drum kit? Hell yeah. What is this, Rush?
Chessman, we've allowed you free reign, I think, far enough to pretend that you have anything prepared.
I actually last week we did the episode about the world. We did the episode about the city and with the guy with the table.
Yeah. I like the table. It's a nice fucking table.
And actually, I liked that episode, but I think Belvin had some complaints about it being like really character focused, I guess. Or something. No, I don't remember. Being too video gamey.
Too D&D.
It's a good thing Belvin's not here to hear us talking shit about it. That guy fucking sucks.
Yeah. I'm glad we kicked him off the podcast.
It was more a scope thing, but go on, Chessman.
Yeah. Yeah. It just got me thinking about like...
What if we killed Belvin?
With a tetherball.
Well, I've been thinking about that too.
Wait until the end of the episode at least. The editing will be terrible if we have to cut him out in the middle.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
I
never
know.
happened.
It got me thinking about there's this there's this story I've been meaning to pick back up again called Ray Bradbury. Have you all read The Martian Chronicles?
I'm familiar with Ray Bradbury, but I've never read that book. No.
It's like this anthology of like stories. It's like it's not about Mars.
Is that
right?
That's not Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars, or whatever it is.
Did he write that? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
That would be a different sci-fi
Those are
guy.
cool books, though.
Yeah, I've heard good things about him.
Proceed.
Yeah, this is like weird mystical retrofuturism stuff.
Neat.
Cool.
But he's got this story, There Will Come Soft Rains.
Oh, this one I know.
Yeah, it's like it is a story that has no people in it, right?
Uh-huh.
It is sort of just about this house and all the characters that are in it.
Is this the one about the house where there's like a apocalypse that happens, but like the Internet of Things is still...
It's like the Jetsons. Yeah, very retro future.
Yeah, Internet of Things. Yeah, Ray Bradbury got Internet of Things way back here. Yeah.
All the way back in 1801 when Ray Bradbury wrote the Mars Chronicles or whatever.
I just made me think about this story because you can, right? He did all of this talking about this civilization that has gone. He did it all. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's a great story. Y'all should read it. There Will Come Soft Rains, which it's named after a poem by Sarah Teasdale. One of the lines in it is, "Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly." So that's where I'm coming from.
I have a bird who's my friend, and I think he would.
Yeah, I know several trees who would be impacted economically.
Would he mind because he's your friend, or because you keep him in a cage and feed him every day?
Well, that's what friendship is.
How do you be friends with a tree?
Easily. Have you not heard of tree huggers?
Didn't you read that trick, the book about the tree that gives up everything for that domestic abuser, that gaslighting child?
Trees are chumps. You can just say anything.
Yeah, they'll trust you.
They're like babies.
Like a pickup artist for trees. Like the game.
I thought that story was supposed to be like a parable, and like most of the parables are, where like they tell you one message, and then at the end they're like, oh, but it's actually about this other thing. It's like, no, just don't let somebody take advantage of you is what it's about.
Clearly.
No, the moral of that story is to fuck over everyone you can for everything they're worth, and then you'll be successful. Because that's what happens.
So
the parable of the sower.
Your vibe that you want to go with is a setting with no characters in it.
Yeah, basically.
I don't think that's crazy. No.
It's not crazy. No, is it crazy? It's happened.
I don't think that's crazy.
I mean, I'm sure multiple of our worlds didn't really have a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't...
No, I mean, like, no people, right? Like,
yeah.
I want to focus on, if not, like, I don't know how long we'll be able to sustain it, because you have to talk about it at some point, but, like, have people be the last thing we think about.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Well, I'm willing to try.
Okay. Let's pick prompts. Belvio.
Dissolve.
Okay. Dissolve. Daniel.
Both of my prompt words were very human focused.
Hey, you can still have it.
Dissolve. The word I had picked was runner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I had picked the word tie.
As in like a tie game?
Well, that's ambiguous.
No,
I guess.
The garment.
Like a tie, like something that knots
Like
or
a
ties
necktie.
something.
Okay.
Yeah, like a necktie, a hair tie, a bow tie, that sort of thing. Tie.
A rail tie.
Bond.
A
Okay.
rail tie, thank you.
Well, that's interesting. Tie and dissolve are kind of corollaries, right? One keeps things
They
together,
are.
one falls apart.
Exactly. It's hard to have dissolving and tying or binding going on in the same setting.
No, man, it makes sense. Like maybe there's something that ties things together. When that's not present, things are in a dissolving state.
Yeah, or a setting that was tied together and is now dissolving.
Mm-hmm. That's a little, it's a little abstract. Maybe, so runner. I said rail tie earlier. So if I think of runner, I think of like a train, I guess. It's like running things.
Could be the last train on Earth, the luxury Starliner.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a train that's still running, even though there's no passengers anymore.
Right.
That's grim. How does it fuel itself?
Oh yeah.
Well, maybe
what if it's perpetual bullshit? You can fucking
Could have a new. Well, I guess
write that off immediately.
it depends on how bullshit we want to get. It could just have like a reactor or something, or some unobtainium shit.
This is not a Snowpiercer situation.
Yeah, it's well, you said train. To be
Buddy.
fair,
There are other settings.
Well, what if there's something going on with the molecular bonds in this world?
like things that are formed.
Tie and dissolve. Yeah, fits very nicely with that.
So things are dissolving into their baser elements.
Okay, why? What if molecular bonds, molecular
A wizard
bonds?
named Maldrux.
No,
Because we're running out of energy to maintain bonds between compounds.
Well, what if bonds were based off of something more spiritual? That in order for matter to tie itself together, there had to be a will there for it
and
to
the
happen.
cord broken. That's kind of interesting.
Right.
Some sort of spiritual accord that was broken in this world, and now there are areas where things are dissolving or in a state of dissolution.
Right. So your bowl breaks up into various types of sand, silt, and base elements that make up your clay bowl that you have on your table.
it would
Okay, so we're not going for, because when I think about that, we think about like what is a base element. Silt is not a base element in our world. So what is the base element in this world? If we're gonna have everything break apart, it needs to be something that's still recognizable.
Well, I don't know the periodic table, but stuff like
everything
carbon,
alive,
hydrogen,
carbon
oxygen,
is
yeah.
We're all
Right.
carbon-based living forms.
It's the thing of is if the Earth broke up into its base elements, it would it would be a gas.
Right.
Well,
it would just be gas.
What if it would be dust and gas? You're right, but what
Yeah,
if
it wouldn't be a
things
gas. It would actually be kind of confusing because it
What
would be a
if
bunch of
things
diatomic shit.
break up into their base elements based on maybe not something spiritual, but how much people need them? And if there are no people around anymore, if there's no will to have things, things are starting to dissolve, with the exception of this train.
Well, I thought we had something cool there with the idea of some sort of agreement broken.
It could have been like a Garden of Eden situation where maybe like the living beings on the planet were all their whims were sort of granted, and now because of whatever deed they broke or whatever pact they broke, everything is falling apart.
Yeah, I like that general vibe.
Like a paradise that was destroyed through inattention.
Like a civilization that didn't know how to build anything because it was all magicked for them based off this agreement. And then something happens, like the covenant is broken or the god moves to another realm or whatever happened, and they don't know how to make anything for themselves. And everything that they had that was magicked up dissolves.
Oh, so yeah, that literally their civilization dissolves.
One way to have dissolution instead of just saying, yeah, it turns into carbon and oxygen, it's a gas now. Well, I'm just imagining, like, for example, a tree. Like, maybe the tree doesn't, like, disintegrate into dust or gas.
You're just trying to save the tree. The tree dies.
Well, maybe
We
they're,
kill
like,
it.
suspended slivers of bark and branch. But, like, most of the tree is now, like, a gaseous element that's held together by some sort of metaphysical remembrance of how it used to be.
Okay.
So that's sort of the
I can vibe
topography
with
of the dissolution.
So that it's more evocative and less clinical of a world to walk around it.
Something that looks kind of fucking cool, you know?
Okay.
You can have like the ghosts of objects, like the spirits of walls that once stood that are now just hints of kind of what they
you
used
see,
to be.
An isolated brick or two, and
Yeah.
Does this extend to like animals and things? Because imagine coming across like a herd of like cattle or something that had been reduced to their sort of composite parts. It's just like
everything. Oh, that'd be super weird. The ghosts are
like an eerie like mooing across the glade.
Right. Because the tie or the covenant with God was broken. Everything was given to these people like by someplace else, and now it's been taken away. So they can't live off the land, and they shortly die off. But the space remains, this kind of degenerated space.
Yeah, there's echoes.
It kind of looks like a Dali painting, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm imagining.
Well, because like if you have something that's tied together and you break it apart or dissolve it, it doesn't necessarily just disappear. It's vestiges.
Its component parts are still, lingering around in the landscape.
So
you're right. You're right.
So there would be echoes of not just, I think, the livestock and the tools and the homes and the nature, but like also the people that lived there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
These like dispossessed spirits.
Well, I think actually the people were the only. I hate to talk about people because we said we weren't going to, but the setting now.
I think it's about the time. I think we can't really talk anymore about this setting without people coming into it.
I suppose you're right.
Because we've now outlined a setting that is completely dissolved without anybody there. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some things there still. Well, some people there.
It's possible that we want to have someone who comes in, explores this land. I mean, just in my head, I'm imagining like if this was like a God Eden type situation, like
a messianic figure.
Yeah, maybe some messianic figure is coming in. Maybe like an angel under God is now entering.
I like the idea of like angel is a good word for it, but like, what if God's representatives go out to piece together some of the world again that has been dissolved?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? Angel means messenger.
Mm-hmm.
Another word for messenger is a runner.
Ooh.
So,
full
finally
circle.
We did it.
we did it.
No extra work. We did a prompt work.
So these God's angels that are...
There's someone's angels, right? Maybe not even the same God who negotiated
there's an angel who's roaming this land now.
Mm-hmm. Runner.
Charlie's angels.
He's kind of like, and for him, it's kind of like him or her. It's kind of like for them, like, listen.
Or it.
Yeah, I think angels are non-binary.
I like they, honestly, for this.
Well, for them, it's kind of like Shadow of the Colossus. Like, they might not know a lot about what happened here, even. Mm-hmm. They could be completely foreign to it. And they're the soul. You know how, like, I was reading, like, one day about, like, the end of space and the end of time. And time only ends, like they talk about like the end of time when the universe ends, but time actually ends when there's nothing left to measure it or calculate it. Time would still pass, but this is kind of like a lone explorer venturing out into the end of time.
Yeah, that's
I like the idea that so perhaps this runner has been granted a portion of God's power to remake the world in some ways, but they have no idea of what it was really like before, just these echoes. So they make these sort of like alien structures and wildlife based off of piecing together like what's left of what came before.
Oh, so you walk up on this like what's a word for this like deconstructed cow, and you try to put it back together, and you accidentally make a zebra or something.
Something that came to mind was viscera, but I don't want to use that.
The thing could have like two phases: the phase where it's in the state of dissolution, and the state where it's being tied together. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
by the runner, who's maybe the inheritor of. I have Lucifer, the comic series, on my mind because I read that recently, and it's like thematically pre-linked into this. And in the end, like God basically steps away from his creation,
just like in the Bible when he gave the keys to the kingdom to Lucifer and said, listen, you're cool, do what you want.
Hey, go prank my son.
There will be a Netflix series.
The Marvel Comics Bible.
But, I mean, so this
will
is
be one of the
like,
worst Netflix series of all time made out.
Oh, God.
We don't talk about that. So maybe this is a realm that was one of God's realms, but God has left the building.
Mm-hmm.
God isn't here anymore. But this runner has some of the same power. And he's come and he's trying to piece things back together. I like this.
Well, keeping with the end of time and time not existing if there's no one there to perceive it, what if humans breaking the covenant with God and them dying off, he needs them too, and so he dies off without them, and so it's kind of like we don't even know like who originally built this place.
What if the covenant was that they aren't to build or create themselves at all?
Yeah, he has absolute creative control. And you could say.
Yeah, he's an auteur. And he doesn't like when people, I don't know, crossbreed a horse and a donkey and make a mule.
Right.
Why would you do that?
Oh.
Don't fuck
everything
with
in his creation's perfect. He made all this stuff for you.
I specifically gave you that little thing at the end of your digestive tract so it could explode sometimes.
Well, maybe they didn't have appendices. Who knows, really?
Well,
that's interesting. So that kind of god would be more like a pocket dimension perfectionist god.
Right.
Or
That's
like
kind of cool.
Like a clockmaker or something.
Yeah.
I do think, when we were talking about Chessman's earlier story, I do think there is an element of automation in this, right? Because a logical god would never have broken off the covenant with people. He would have, but this god was so like robotic in his like instruction and like unwavering in how the covenant was administered that now he's dead because of it. And this entire realm has just been destroyed.
yeah, in my head, kind of the way that would work in the tide to sort of like put that in the frame of this like dissolved world is it's kind of like when you're writing code, when you're writing a program, the code it's in one state before it's compiled, and that state doesn't really do anything until you actually compile it and it starts running. So it's kind of like the god of this world realized that he didn't like the way it was going and just like destroyed decompiled everything.
Yeah, it was a failed I don't want to use the word experiment because I don't want this to be sci-fi, but it was a failed attempt, basically.
Yeah, this is the dying world of a clockwork god.
I think it's a vanity project in a lot of ways, too.
Well, creating worlds is a vanity project. We would know. It is the most
the most glorious pursuit of mankind.
The most self-referential episode
this is
of all
a world
time.
that never got a revisit and is now crumbling.
This is Clown World.
Yeah.
Oh, do you ever think about that? Where the realities in the worlds that we've created are no longer allowed to advance because we're not creating them anymore.
And I like to imagine
they're dissolving.
I
much
think
like
about
this
all
one.
the time.
Yeah,
Oh my
James
God.
Mahler is our messenger, and we're sending him through
We're sending him in
through Clown World.
Love you, James, buddy.
I kind of want to get a little sense of what this world was before it started dissolving.
That's a great idea.
What makes it... So we have established that we have sort of this perfectionist system-creating god figure.
So what if it's like I had an idea for an aesthetic a little bit, like, so not sci-fi, but like when whenever I think of that short story or like retrofuturism in general, like the towering like towers of silver and shit, and like everything is very sleek and glossy. What if it was like that, but it was golden instead? If this is a vanity project,
that seems tight. Yeah,
like spires of golden cities and stuff like that.
Golden paradise that was created.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the name for that kind of style? I have
retrofuturism.
No idea. It's retro. Yeah, sure.
I mean,
bubbleism.
C3PO.
It's usually silver if it's retrofuture, but yeah.
Thank you, Belvin.
Just think the Jetsons, but gold. But don't actually think that.
Rich Jetsons.
Well, that plus maybe he like made his own kind of nature to complement it. But it's very particular about like look, don't touch.
What if like our nature is like the kind of the default thing that we all go to is green? What if it's like a royal like purple kind of velvet thing, like the leaves are like
it's
that?
otherworldly.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, I mean, just an idea for how the covenant was broken. It was very much like you can walk among this, you can admire it, but you can't do anything with it.
Maybe, that I could see, because he's kind of like, if he's creating all of it and he's creating the race that's going to inhabit it, he can also eliminate their need for food or to hunt for sustenance. They would just live in his garden, you know?
I think adaptation is the sin here. You don't need to adapt. Don't do it. Don't fuck with things you're not supposed to.
Yeah, don't fuck with things. It's all already perfect. We made the perfect system. Yeah.
Oh, so, I think what happened is he set this all up and he basically made... let's just say man. He made man.
Well,
yeah.
I'm imagining a race of oblong people.
The Modron people, yeah.
Oblong.
What's that story where it's like they're all mathematical people in a 2D plane?
Flatland.
Yeah. I don't actually want that.
Scribblenauts.
That's what my
I'm
brain
just
went to.
imagining like spherical kind of like very minimalist little guys.
I think that fits the aesthetic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Okay, so they created the orbs.
The orbos.
The power orbs.
The
yes.
orbalos.
Let's call them orballs.
Orbles? The orbal.
The yorballs.
The balls of Yor.
Zog orbs. They
They've
created
got
the Zog
balls
orbs.
of steel.
I'm just gonna fucking call them Zog orbs, and none of you can stop me because it's my day.
So he made the orbs. What else about this
orbs.
world do we
The
know?
orbs. Yeah.
He made the orbs, and he put them into this world,
And it was good.
And he's like, okay, so they're doing what I want them to do with it. That's cool. Let me go. I got this other project I'm gonna work on. I'll be back. And original sin happens. And they actually spend a lot of time fucking with his world.
Right, and he
I
comes
like that.
back and he's enraged.
Like, what if
Right.
like he fucks off and then they discover fire and then they take that down its natural conclusion?
Whatever the orb equivalent of fire is.
Like, like they discover energy and they use it to shape the world around them.
Yeah,
Right.
they start to live in nature too. Try farming different kinds of foods.
Making tools that they aren't. You don't need those. Don't make them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it.
I like the idea that they made a railroad just because we started off on that.
But what if they were bigger dicks than we like what if
Yeah.
what if they weren't just building shit? They were like they became like decadent and they wanted to like do things just because it was there. They wanted to like eat things even though they didn't need to eat.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was some spiritual corruption that happened.
Yeah, and they started like farming, but they would farm in like the worst possible. They wouldn't
Right, or
actually
they
plant
killed
things
things
back.
to
They would just
experience like
The
what
thrill.
it felt like to kill. Stuff they didn't
As like
need
an
to be doing.
adrenaline rush. Okay.
Right.
That's
That
interesting.
adds more of a fall to it as well.
but I kind of like the idea of it, their fall is just kind of acting human, and it's the control freak nature of the god that makes it unacceptable.
Well, don't humans do? Well, I don't
it is kind of acting human.
I like the idea that the original sin is the adaptation or the invention, and it led to this hedonism. Because that's sort of what happened with us anyway. Maybe they're better than us. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I've said it before. I'll say it again. Agriculture, biggest mistake.
Intro to
Original
sociology, my favorite class,
We reject modernity, return to tradition.
or
We should-
anthropology, not fucking sociology. God damn it,
Oh man.
that class was boring. But anyway,
Okay, so the orbs had this perfect golden city that they're just supposed to admire. Basically, they had preordained activities.
Right.
They
The
could only-
city, the lands beyond, all of it was open to them. They could they could
badminton.
go through it. Go through life in their like weird velvet travel box that God did design for them.
And maybe they had a really censured sort of creation outlet that he didn't think about as creation. It was sort of like, oh, here's some dough that you can make shapes with or something.
He's like, I'll permit you to make shapes, and they've been eating it. And he's like, no.
God is a kindergarten teacher.
Eating face.
It's not toxic.
Or whole fan of eating.
Putting forks into electrical outlets.
It is funny if he like made this world like super. He's like he wanted us to see it, and so he made it very like all you had to do was like think about a part of the world, and you could go there. It was like optimized for your every convenience for you to look at it and admire it in the easiest way possible. And still, we wanted more shit.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, maybe the orbs built lots of orb-shaped architecture. Like they kind of started making
to
the world in
glorify
their
them.
image.
That's a big Old Testament no.
They made lots of orbs, and they placed the orbs in the fields that were supposed to be untouched.
And then they thought God was an orb when he was actually a cube, and he was like, "This is wrong."
They put a golden orb atop the golden spire.
Okay, so that happens. Clockwork God comes back, freaks out, tears everything apart, or just like whatever the metaphysical equivalent is of having a ribbon and just untying it.
Well, yeah. What if he's like he didn't even come back? He was just like, "Well, we'll see how they do without me," and I'm severing my. I'm giving away the rights to the land that it's built.
No, I think the whole thing hinges on the fact that they came back and looked at the world and was like, this fucking sucks.
I agree with that.
And then right there, split decision was like, well, I didn't really have any more plans for this world anyways, and I don't like what happened, so it's like ixnay.
Yeah,
like,
why invest more energy into like giving these people all these things?
Well, it could be that, like, basically in the molecules of the world are the stamp of this god. Once this god
and he can
revokes this
revoke
stamp,
that.
the molecules are unstable and they start breaking apart. And, yeah, it's another Lucifer
Well, it'd be
idea.
cool if he negotiated. He negotiated the bonds between. So meticulous was he that he negotiated the bonds between every like atom that were able, to be permitted. Each and every one he personally
he made it.
with
Yeah,
a little
crafted it.
anvil. Yeah. So he's like, well, I'm just going to take back everything that fucking took the most time, use it someplace else.
Right. So the world starts unraveling. Orbs have a brief period of panic.
Yeah, they're like, this is a new age of orb humanism, and then it ends very badly.
Yeah. So I guess there's a bad time for the orbs.
Yeah.
The dissolution.
Really, everything after God leaves is a bad time for the orbs.
Well, at a certain point, I think they're just gone. And
they can't sustain themselves without, him.
Yeah.
And then the runner comes.
Yeah.
I like the idea that the world totally dissolves before the runner comes. And so the runner is now this sort of I don't want to say data, but that's kind of what they're sort of this archaeologist of this sort of matrix-like weird world space.
The wallpaper
just sort of,
is peeling off this reality.
Well, it's a lot of memories. It's a lot of like, if you were outside of time to a certain extent, you can kind of sense a lot of the old shapes.
I mean, you said this before, Chessman. He's walking through a Dali painting of like what the world was.
I also imagine as the runner's moving through this space, stuff is like sort of coming back together a little bit. Like he's like sort of stitching stuff together because
existence rises to meet you, and kind of wants to have something on the table when you arrive. That's kind of a neat idea.
So maybe the runner the runner's here on behalf of the god, or maybe the runner repossessed. It sort of like if you were to go way outside of this, maybe the god is just a guy with a computer, and the guy with the computer died.
Yeah,
and the runner is just
I hate
somebody.
That is the worst trend.
I object.
I mean, you legally you are the lore lad, but I do object.
This is just a metaphor. I don't actually like this, but this is the best.
Then why are you doing it? Why are you doing
The
it?
clockmaker in his workshop has died.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel, for returning this to more logical footing.
You're welcome, Walt.
Well, it doesn't matter if the god is dead or not. The god's gone and not coming back. The runner is here to basically find bits and pieces that are worth keeping.
Maybe he too, maybe not even that. Maybe he just wants to, because even the title, The Runner, doesn't imply that he's doing anything apart from going to various places. So maybe he just wants to see shit before he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about him like remaking things, but maybe he's not trying to remake, or like remake is maybe not the right word. He's not trying to restore the world, but he's like maybe jamming shit together that he finds as he comes across it, just to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting if the runner is different from Clockwork God.
I don't think he's
I
building.
think he should be
temperament and interest, and like maybe
he doesn't care really about creating anything.
No, he's a transient. He's just looking for interesting stuff.
He is a transient hobo.
Yeah.
Maybe he's trying to find pieces to take with him. That'd be kind of interesting.
Okay.
Like maybe
That gives you kind of
floating
impetus.
in like a Schrodinger space around him are like fragments from other worlds that he's walked through.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And he picks up more in his orbit, whatever like he's really drawn to, that he reshapes. I think that's kind of cool.
I do like this idea that the god is this like epitome of a creative figure, like trying to make something that is exactly in their image and hates when it differs.
Right.
And when it does differ, they're like screw it.
Yeah,
like,
they
this
don't
isn't
do
worth
the
it.
normal thing and be like, oh, well, they're irrational. And they're like, fuck the whole thing. It sucks.
And the keeper is like the antithesis of a creative force. It's a discovering force, right? It's like the did I say the keeper?
You did say the keeper.
You said the runner, or you said the keeper.
runner.
Yeah.
Who's the keeper?
The trapper keeper.
That's nothing.
The what?
Oh yeah. This is nothing. This is nothing.
What are you saying?
Don't.
The runner is this paramount discovering force that is like doesn't create anything, is just going to these worlds that have already ended their creation and is just like taking things in.
Right.
Right. He goes to the end of time at each time, and he's the last person there. Maybe that's his whole deal. That's their whole thing. It's just he's the last thing, the last consciousness at the end of everything.
Traveling through the doomed universe.
Traveling through the dooms is a really cool ass phrase, by the way.
Through the dooms. It's my new song.
That's good.
It's metal as shit.
Yeah, maybe because he is a consciousness, because he does have tastes and prefers certain things he picks up in his orbit and takes with him.
Yeah, maybe the runner didn't have those tastes at first. Maybe he developed them basically by experiences. Like it was like sort of this primordial force of like discovery that just turned into its own entity.
Maybe.
Right.
And maybe the runner, once he's done with his travels, will use his experience to make a new universe.
I don't know if he'll even do that.
And the cycle continues.
Really leaning into the Dr. Manhattan there. Very nice.
Yeah, you're really going full Doctor Who here toward the end.
Maybe.
Full timey-wimey.
Maybe I'll have sex with 3 people at once.
Can you do that, Doctor?
Maybe I'll make a really cool spaceship. It looks really fucking cool. You guys don't even know about it.
It's so stupid. Oh, man. This has been, I think, probably our weirdest episode.
Than
And we did Frog
Quest?
Quest, and we did the diner, and now we've done this.
It's in the top 5 for sure.
Top 5, top 2, I think.
Yeah.
Though-
It's this or Frog Quest.
Because Frog Quest had a narrative, and this is...
Yeah, those two and this one in every world. Every world has a Frog Quest. Every world has a diner.
Well, every world has a doom.
Will end.
You know, every
world is
world
doomed.
will end, and the runner will be there, traveling through the dooms, the last thing alive.
Every world has a Death Stranding.
Hell yeah. Every world, traveling through the dooms is, first of all, going to be the name of my autobiography when I'm, write it in prison.
We have actually just come up with the idea for Hideo Kojima's next video game.
Yeah, inadvertently. he's a big fan, but
He loves Doom's Traveler.
people don't believe that he steals from us all the time.
Well, this is
He took
basically
Death
just
Stranding from-
Katamari Damacy that we've made.
Yeah.
You were big on the guy collecting things in an orb around himself, and I was like, yeah, we could do that. And then you're like, what if it's Katamari? And I was like, listen, I don't have a dog in this.
I'm fine with that solely because the sound in that series, the music in that series is so fucking good.
All right. Well, folks, I think that's our show.
Well, we got to decide who the lore lad is, but then,
Oh, fuck.
and guess who it is? I rolled. Guess who it is?
Who? You?
It's Zach Chessman.
Oh my god.
Nah, you gotta get somebody else.
No, we've done this before.
I think the dice is nice, but we got to spread the love. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm ironclad
come
to
on.
do
We
my
Just think, it's
Constitution
another
commands.
week. You don't have to come up with a prompt
Yeah,
word.
Chessman.
You have to come up with something
Choice.
harder than a prompt word.
All right.
Roll the die again.
Oh, they're just forcing you to do things like for the show that we shit around in.
I just want everybody to have a chance at the hot seat.
We all have. Doing this for 3 seasons.
Well, folks, that's our show. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice to get new episodes every Saturday. If you wish, if you would deign it so, go ahead and write us a review on iTunes and share us with all your world-building friends. It really helps us out. Our art is courtesy of the talented and wonderful Shell Tor at Jovial Paradox on Twitter. You can tweet at us too at LoreLads or send us spirited hate mail at 30minuteworlds@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy world building.